Welcome to Horrors Untold, where the screams go deeper. What began as an interactive book dissecting the twisted history of Halloween horror nights has clawed its way into a new form, this podcast. We're here to unearth the behind-the-scenes tales, dark lore, and haunted threads that tie HHN's past to its present. In this mini-series, we sit down with some of the brilliant and slightly deranged collaborators and creators behind Horrors Untold, starting with our first guest, the mastermind puzzle designer who helped weave our eerie interactive elements together, who is interviewed by Marc N. Kleinhenz, our creative lead.
Hi there, my name is Mairi Nolan. I go by Mairi Spaceship Online, and I am a puzzle designer by trade. So I work on escape rooms, tabletop games, video games, board games, anything that could possibly have a puzzle component. And on Horrors Untold, I was the lead puzzle designer. So that includes designing all the puzzles you come across in the book, both the obvious ones and then all of the secret hidden ones that you might not have discovered yet.
When we first approached you to be part of Horrors Untold, what did you make of the whole thing?
Yeah, so I was really excited when you guys first approached me to be part of the project. I think this project is like nothing else that's ever been done before. Obviously, a great idea to create something that's sort of part book, part immersive experience, part like alternate reality game, I guess. And above all, celebrating Halloween Horror Nights. So us Halloween Horror Night fans and fans in general, I think like we like to experience things that are a little bit different outside of the norm. And this is just a really cool way to like really celebrate that and really engage the fans in a hopefully unique and immersive way.
Now, designing this book with all these puzzles and interactive elements, it was pretty challenging from my perspective, being a complete puzzle newbie. How was it for you?
It was good fun. I think, look, the whole experience was really great. It's a great medium to do something in a physical book, but in terms of like the challenges and what I was really focusing on, I guess I was trying to make sure that the puzzles felt well integrated into the narrative and aren't sort of disruptive to the storytelling. So at the forefront of this whole experience, the story is what we're trying to tell. And that's like sometimes through the puzzles, sometimes through the written content as well. And so I wanted the puzzles to not detract from that, but to totally add to that. So if you choose to follow some of the little puzzle threads, you'll discover more secrets or kind of make your experience of the narrative even better. And yeah, really keep the readers focused on the world we've created. So yeah, I think not a difficult part, but certainly a challenge that was a fun thing to try and address through the puzzles.
Would you say that was the most challenging part of the overall experience, or would you single out one of the individual puzzles specifically?
The individual puzzle that's probably the most challenging to design was the puzzle where the layout of the page plays a big factor. So I don't want to say too much because I don't necessarily want to spoil it for anyone, but there's a point in the book in which sort of the physicality of the paper itself becomes quite again, trying not to spoil anything, it becomes very important to uncovering what you need to find on that page. And so you have to kind of manipulate the paper, you have to fold the paper in a unique way. And this was a challenge as a puzzle designer because I'm based in the UK. If you couldn't tell from my accent, our paper sizes are different from everyone else's in the world. So just making sure that what I was printing out and what I was testing and what I was play testing with people over here actually worked for everyone and obviously worked in the final print. So that was certainly a unique challenge to try and figure out. So in the end, we did sort of make the puzzles a little bit less complex than they possibly could have been in that section, but I think it paid off. Like it's a very satisfying puzzle. Once you reach that page, you're like, oh, that's what I have to do.
I received a comment from one of our early readers that he had some familiarity with puzzle products and experiences, but he'd never seen so many different types of puzzles contained within one specific package. And I thought that was quite interesting.
That's really great. That's a very good compliment, I guess, for the puzzles. Like when designing, I tried to put a little bit of everything, especially things I enjoy solving myself and kind of puzzles that, yeah, spark joy and spark aha moments. So I tried to create as many different as possible within that whole experience, just to keep the experience fresh as well, and just kind of keep you thinking outside the box. Don't want people to get too comfortable like halfway through the book thinking they know how to solve the puzzles, then we shake it up a little bit towards the end. So yeah, that's a great comment.
You actually, beyond just doing the puzzles, you also had, I think, a lot of impact on the story itself and how that story unfolds. No pun intended. And I think probably for my perspective, the biggest single impact that you had was you made the hand, poor Hunter's detached hand, one of the central mechanics of the whole experience. So I would like you just to walk us through what was your thought process behind doing all that.
Yeah, so that's a really great question. For the experience, I decided that I really wanted the players to carry something with them throughout the book, whether it's like a charm, like a good luck charm, bad luck charm, something cursed, whatever it is, something they would physically take out of the book. Both from a practical point of view, it can be used as a bookmark, and also from like a puzzle solving and immersive way. So I went through a few different iterations of what that was. Like, what could this thing we can put on one of the first pages that you cut out actually be? And since we were dealing with a lot of autopsy reports, as you say, poor Hunter, um, at the time, I think I was just reading a lot of ghost stories and I became really interested in the symbolism of the hand. Yeah, in ghost stories, like the cursed hand or the severed hand. And also just like quite literally pointing the way, like even when we design puzzle games, hands and pointing and arrows and stuff are used to kind of signpost where to go or signpost what the clue is. So it seemed like an obvious and hopefully good choice to use a hand for this instead. So from the beyond, Hunter's physical hand quite literally points you through the story at times and provides the practical key you need to solve the puzzle. So it works from both a puzzle point of view and hopefully a narrative point of view. I don't want to explain exactly how the hand works because again, I don't want to spoil the game too much, but yeah, players should cut this out early and use it as often as possible. And hopefully, players will be delighted by what they find or what the hand points them to.
And then there's a whole different bucket of puzzles where the solution is like drawing or creating a symbol for what we call our witchy alphabet. And
Mm.
again, this might be me being a newbie, but I'm not too familiar with a lot of puzzles where the solution is drawing something. How common is that, and how where did the idea come from for that?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that uncommon, but what the whole reason for that was I really wanted to make the player feel like they were inside the world. So not just passively reading, but actually actively creating something. It's very easy to like sort of read a book and even sort of solve puzzles in your head, but getting people to physically get a pen and paper out and actually draw out shapes and create the alphabet. So yeah, throughout the book, we sort of get people to like uncover these witchy looking sigils and they turn out to be letters. And kind of you uncover a lot of the story through that as well. And I don't know about you, but for me, there's something quite fun about, especially given this theme, the danger of spelling out any kind of witchy symbols. Are you being tricked by someone to write something in an alphabet you don't know and like kind of not knowing the consequence of what you're writing? I don't know if there was any particular inspiration for that. It's certainly not too common and it's not too uncommon either, but I thought it would fit really well with a book like this to kind of have you tracing things out and then kind of the moment of taking a step back and seeing what you've created and being like, oh no, what have I written? What have I done? What have I summoned? Kind of feeling. So that's why that's in there. And yeah, hopefully it works.
What were your inspirations for the different puzzles?
Yeah. In my life in general, I work on lots of different types of puzzle games. And for inspiration for everything, I try and sort of read a lot, watch a lot of films, play a lot of games. Inspiration in general comes from a lot of places. And since we were designing this project over the course of at least a year, I'd have to say the inspirations for this one probably come from lots of different places. And in particular, I play a lot of escape rooms. It's like my biggest hobby in the world. And I remember whilst working on this project, going out of my way to find ones that were about cults or like witches or like supernatural or like anything remotely horror. And I'm not usually a big horror fan when it comes to like books and films. I'm just such a scaredy cat. But it was a great year of like seeking these kinds of things out to try and like see like what like motifs, what symbols, what tropes, like what interesting things can we put in this that the horror fan will recognize. I remember one thing I did watch a lot of was Evil Dead. I mean, there's like a book in that, right? So a lot of stuff from that. I watched all of them. Fantastic, love them. And then I found an escape room out in Seattle. I think they're called Hourglass Escapes, and they have the officially licensed Evil Dead escape room. And it was just one of the best ones I've ever played in the world. And I tried to draw in a lot of those designers' playfulness and witchiness and just the funness into my own work with this. Like, well, we're dealing with something quite scary and something quite like unnerving, but how do we make that interactive? How do we make that like fun? Where do we find the fun? So I'd say, yeah, lots of inspirations, but that one stands out to me a lot as well.
Were there any ideas or concepts that you wanted to include but couldn't?
Yeah, good question. Originally, we wanted to have a lot of physical and paper ephemera outside of the book, including potentially an actual locked box. And I remember spending quite some time looking into locks that did unique things. So, like date locks, for example, and thinking how we could lead players to uncover a date and then put the date in that lock on the correct date, and sort of having the contents be a little bit more physical for the grand finale of the book. And in the end, we did just scale it back to just a book, but who knows? Perhaps we'll use that idea for something in the future. Like there's a lot of different sort of weird little puzzle ideas I had that ended up on the cutting room floor. But I think, yeah, the biggest one we probably scaled back on was things outside of the book. But I'll just leave it at that in case we do design something else cool in the future together and put it in.
That's the dream for sure. What was the most surprising or unexpected part of this whole creative process?
The most surprising or unexpected part of that is probably the things you see in playtesting. So I love designing a puzzle and just in my head knowing exactly how it's going to be solved because I designed it. I know what it is. And then giving it to playtesters and see them immediately break it or immediately go on a weird tangent in the most surprising and delightful way. And it really makes me look back at my own puzzles on how they sit in the book and sometimes like really get whole new learnings from it because I found that I designed a lot of puzzles, not in isolation from the book, but I wouldn't necessarily see exactly how they sat in the book because I already knew the story, I knew everything. But until seeing someone sit down and sort of read it and solve at the same time, it would kind of shape the way I was looking at how the puzzle sat in the universe in a different way. And we made a lot of tweaks based on that. But that was the most surprising and unexpected part of the book because yeah, you're really guiding people through the narrative and kind of balancing that with the puzzles as well, but kind of seeing that come together. It gave a lot of like surprising moments of like, huh, that's how that kind of reads, or that's how that kind of looks. In a good way. I think we made a better experience for it.
What do you hope that readers take away once they're done reading or interacting with Horrors Untold?
When people are done reading and interacting with Horrors Untold, I hope, well, first and foremost, I hope they have a lot of fun with the world we've created. But above all, Horrors Untold is an invitation to kind of explore this world, like be challenged by this world and experience the narrative through a unique lens. We're not just asking them to read a book, we're asking them to engage in this puzzle solving adventure and it kind of bleeds out into real life in some interesting ways. And I hope people also view the Halloween Horror Nights themselves in a really unique way, and come away having played this experience, thinking about different things and thinking about the history and thinking about their own story within that world as well.